My daughter-in-law live-streamed herself, announcing she'd secured a deposit on my house, with my name already on the sales contract as a willing seller. The listing went live on MLS at 3:45 p.m. on a Tuesday, complete with photos of my grandmother's china cabinet and the mountain view I'd watched my husband take his last breath against. Everyone expected me to cry, maybe beg. I chose differently. I opened my legal notebook, made 3 phone calls, and prepared to show her exactly what happens when you forge a 62-year-old woman's signature. My name is Eleanor Whitaker. Nora, to anyone who's known me longer than 5 minutes, and I've lived in Cedar Ridge, Colorado, for 37 years. The house sits on 2 acres overlooking Pinyon Canyon, all rough-hewn timber and stone that my late husband Jack and I bought when interest rates were 18%, and everyone thought we were crazy. Now it's worth more than we ever imagined, which apparently makes me a sitting duck for my son's ambitious wife. I was sorting 19th century mining claims at the Rocky Mesa Historical Trust when my phone buzzed at 2:15 p.m. that Tuesday. Betty from next door, breathless. "Nora, there's a for sale sign in your yard." "That's impossible," I said, still holding a fragile deed from 1887. "I'm at work." "Well, it's there. Big as life. Coldwell Banker." My fingers stayed steady as I placed the document in its acid-free sleeve. 30 years of archival work teaches you that paper trails never lie. It's the people who create them who do. I told my supervisor I needed to leave early. Family emergency. Which wasn't technically untrue. The drive home took 17 minutes. I counted each one, watching the familiar mountains blur past, trying to puzzle out how someone plants a for sale sign on property they don't own. Then my phone lit up with notifications, Facebook, Instagram, text messages from cousins I hadn't heard from in years. Savannah had gone live. I pulled into the Safeway parking lot and opened Instagram with the kind of dread usually reserved for medical test results. There she was, my daughter-in-law, standing in my kitchen running her manicured fingers along my granite countertops. "Guys, I cannot believe this is actually happening." She was using her real estate voice, the one that went up an octave when she sensed money. "We've been working on this for months, and Mama Whitaker finally agreed. This stunning property will be on the market tomorrow. And trust me, it won't last long in this market. Mama Whitaker. She only called me that when she wanted something or when she was performing for an audience." The comments were already flooding in. Heart emojis, congratulations, inquiries about price. Someone asked if I was moving to Florida. Savannah laughed, that tinkling, fake laugh she'd perfected at her real estate seminars. "She's transitioning to a lovely senior community. It's really what's best for everyone." I set my phone on the passenger seat, face down, and drove the rest of the way home in silence. The sign was exactly where Betty said it would be, red and white and professionally planted in my xeriscaped front yard, right next to the boulder where Jack had carved our initials in 1989. The listing agent's face smiled from the placard, someone I'd never met. Couldn't have been more than 25. All veneered teeth and spray tan. I parked in my usual spot and walked to the sign, taking photos from every angle. The afternoon sun caught the agent's phone number, the MLS listing code, the coming soon banner draped across the top. I didn't pull it out. Not yet. Evidence first. Action second. Another thing the archives taught me. Inside, the house felt violated. Nothing was missing. Nothing moved. But knowing Savannah had been here with her phone, broadcasting my life to strangers, made my skin crawl. She'd filmed the living room where Jack's flag from his Navy service still sat folded in its triangle case. The dining room where we'd hosted 40 years of Thanksgivings. The view from the master bedroom where I'd held Jack's hand those last 3 months, while the cancer took him piece by piece. My laptop was in the kitchen, exactly where I'd left it. I opened Zillow first, then Realtor.com, then Redfin. There it was, my address, my life, priced at $1.2 million. Motivated seller. The listing read, estate sale potential, perfect for developers or luxury renovation. The photos were recent, I could tell from the Christmas cactus blooming in the sunroom, which meant they'd been taken within the last 2 weeks. When had Savannah been here? Then I remembered she'd offered to check on the house while I was at my sister's in Denver for the weekend. You really shouldn't leave it empty. Mama Whitaker. Break-ins are up 30%. I scrolled through the listing details. 4 bedrooms, 3 baths, original hardwood, mountain views, year-round access road. All true. Then at the bottom, in the disclosures section, seller representation confirmed. Power of attorney documentation on file. Power of attorney. The last time anyone had asked me to sign anything was 6 weeks ago. Caleb had come by with papers for the new roof warranty, the storm damage from April, he'd said. Insurance paperwork? I'd been making dinner, distracted by the pot roast that was starting to burn. He'd pointed to the signature line, kissed my cheek, and left with the papers before I'd even finished reading. My boy. My sweet, conflict-avoidant boy who still brought me coffee on Sunday mornings and called to check if I'd watched Jeopardy. How long had he known, or did he know at all? I pulled my legal notebook from the drawer, the same kind I'd used for decades at work, narrow-ruled and acid-free. At the top of a fresh page, I wrote the date and time. Then, in careful handwriting, property theft in progress. It was 3:47 p.m. on a Tuesday afternoon, and someone had just declared war on the wrong woman. The first time Savannah suggested I downsize, we were sitting at Thanksgiving dinner last year. She'd had 3 glasses of Pinot Grigio, and her voice carried that particular edge that meant she'd been rehearsing her speech. This house is just so much for one person, she'd said, gesturing with her fork at my dining room's vaulted ceiling. The maintenance alone must be crushing you financially. I'd passed her the green beans and changed the subject, but she'd planted her flag. Every visit after that became a campaign. The stairs were a death trap waiting to happen. The acreage was completely unmanageable. The location was too isolated for a woman your age. Your age became her favorite weapon. I was 61 then, still hiking Pinyon Trail every weekend, still working full-time, still managing my own investments and property taxes. But in Savannah's narrative, I was one broken hip away from complete helplessness. Caleb would shift uncomfortably during these monologues, studying his plate like it held the secrets of the universe. "Mom's doing fine," he'd mumble occasionally, but Savannah would pat his hand and smile that practiced smile. "Of course she is, baby. I'm just thinking ahead, planning. That's what families do." The February visit was when she escalated. She arrived with printed listings for active senior communities and a PowerPoint presentation on her tablet about the tax advantages of transferring property to family members before death. "It's called estate planning," she explained, swiping through slides with corporate templates. "If you transfer the deed now, you avoid probate, minimize taxes, and ensure the family legacy stays in the family." "The family legacy," I repeated, watching her eyes track across my living room, calculating square footage. Exactly, Caleb's inheritance shouldn't go to the government. What she meant was, Caleb's inheritance shouldn't wait until I'm dead. I told her I'd think about it. Then I called my attorney, Martha Brennan, who'd handled Jack's estate. Martha laughed so hard she had to put me on hold. She showed you a PowerPoint. Martha wheezed when she came back on. Lord have mercy, listen. Nora, you're healthy as a horse and sharp as a tack. Don't sign anything. Not a grocery list, not a birthday card, nothing. But I did sign something. That April afternoon, when the roof needed warranty paperwork, when Caleb stood in my kitchen looking harried and apologetic. Savannah's in the car, he'd said. She's got a showing at 4:30. I just need your signature for the insurance claim. The paper had been folded oddly. I remembered now. The signature line at the bottom of a page, the rest tucked under. Standard insurance form, he'd said. For the roof repair authorization. I opened my filing cabinet now, pulling out the folder marked House Insurance. The roof claim was there, properly filed with State Farm, my signature clear on the authorization for repairs. But that wasn't what Caleb had taken with him that day. That form had been submitted electronically, I realized, checking the date stamp. So what had I signed? My phone rang. Caleb. Mom. His voice was thin, stressed. Savannah said you're upset about the sign. Upset. I kept my tone level, archival professional calm. Should I be upset that someone's selling my house without my knowledge? It's not Mom. You agreed to this. You signed the papers. Which papers exactly? A pause. I could hear Savannah in the background, her voice urgent but indistinct. The power of attorney, he said finally, for the house sale, so we could handle everything for you. I never signed a power of attorney. Mom, you did. In April. For the roof. He stopped abruptly. The background whispering intensified. Caleb, I said, very quietly. I want you to listen very carefully. I signed a roof warranty form. Nothing else. If something else has my signature on it, it's forged. Mum, you can't just... I can and I will. I'm calling Martha Brennan right now. Then I'm calling the county recorder's office, then the state real estate commission. Jesus, Mum, wait. Just wait. Let me come over. We can talk about this. Bring the papers, I said. All of them. And bring your wife. I hung up before he could respond and immediately dialed Martha's office. Her secretary put me through immediately. They listed my house, I said without preamble. Who listed your house? Savannah. With a forged power of attorney? Apparently. Martha's silence was expensive, $300 an hour worth of legal consideration. How exposed is Caleb? I asked, because that was what mattered. Not the house, not the money, not even the betrayal. My son, my sweet, weak-willed son who'd married a barracuda. Depends on what he knew and when. Nora? I need you to document everything. Screenshots, photos, recordings. If Colorado's one-party consent, which it is, don't touch that sign yet. Let them dig deeper. How deep? Until we can bury them in it, Martha said grimly. I'll file a notice with the county recorder today. That'll freeze any potential sale. But Nora, this is going to get ugly. I looked out my kitchen window at the canyon, at the place where we'd scattered Jack's ashes 5 years ago. He would have handled this differently, loud, confrontational, Irish temper blazing. But Jack was gone, and I was left with my own methods, careful, methodical, devastating in their precision. "Let it get ugly," I said. "I've got nothing but time." After Martha hung up, I made myself a cup of tea and sat down with my laptop. The MLS listing was still active, already showing 17 saves and 4 inquiries. Tomorrow there would be more. By the weekend, Savannah would probably schedule showings. I smiled. A thin, sharp thing that would have worried Jack. Let her schedule them. Let her bring every potential buyer in Colorado through my door. Because by then, I'd be ready with something she never saw coming, the truth, documented in triplicate and filed with every relevant authority in the state. The house settled around me in the late afternoon light, solid and patient. We'd survived 40 years of winters, Jack's death, and my grief. We could survive Savannah's greed, too. By Wednesday morning, the vultures were circling. 3 voicemails from agents wanting to preview the property. 2 text messages from investors offering cash deals. Betty had counted 14 cars slowing down to photograph the sign. "It's like a damn tourist attraction," she said, standing on my porch at 7:30 a.m. with a plate of muffins and a combat veteran's gleam in her eye. Betty had served 2 tours in Vietnam as an army nurse. She knew an ambush when she saw one. "Let them look," I said, accepting the muffins. "I've got an appointment at the county recorder's office at 9. The drive to the courthouse took me through downtown Cedar Ridge, past the real estate office where Savannah worked. Her white Lexus sat in its usual spot, pristine and pretentious. A banner across the office window read, "Savannah Whitaker, $1 million producer, 3 years running." The county recorder's office smelled like old paper and bitter coffee, my favorite combination. Donna Vargas had been running the office for 15 years, and she knew me from my work at the Historical Trust. Nora. She looked up from a stack of deeds. "Please tell me you're here about mining claims and not that circus on Redfin." "You saw it." "Honey, everyone's seen it. That view, that price point, my phone's been ringing all morning with title companies wanting to verify ownership." "And what do you tell them?" Donna pulled up her computer screen, fingers flying across the keyboard. "I tell them the truth. Eleanor Marie Whitaker, sole owner, deed recorded November 12, 1987. No liens, no transfers, no changes. What about powers of attorney? None on file." She leaned back, studying me. "Should there be?" I placed my folder on her desk. Inside, screenshots of the listing, photos of the sign, and a printed copy of Savannah's live stream transcript I'd painfully created at 2 a.m. "Someone's claiming there is. I need to file a notice of interest and an affidavit of forgery." Donna's expression hardened. "Son of a sorry, Nora. But this is happening too much lately. Elder abuse through forged documents. You know who's behind it." "My daughter-in-law." She whistled low. "That's cold. You got an attorney, Martha Brennan?" "Good choice." "Okay, let's lock this down tight. Nobody's selling anything without going through me first." As Donna prepared the documents, I asked, "Hypothetically, if someone had filed a power of attorney, would there be a notary seal?" "Has to be. Colorado law requires notarization with the signer present, ID verified, the whole 9 yards." She pulled out a magnifying glass from her drawer. "Why?" I showed her a photo I'd managed to screenshot from Savannah's Instagram story, a quick flash of paper she'd been waving during her live stream. The quality was poor, but a notary seal was visible. Donna squinted at it. That's Jennifer Cho's seal. She works out of that UPS store on 5th Street. She grabbed her phone. Jenny, it's Donna at the recorder's office. Quick question about a notarization. I watched Donna's face change as she listened, her free hand clenching into a fist. I see. No, you did nothing wrong. But I need you to write that down and sign it. Today. Yes. It's that serious. She hung up. Jenny says a woman came in 2 weeks ago with a power of attorney already signed. Wanted it notarized after the fact. Jenny refused. It's illegal. The woman got angry, said she'd go elsewhere. So whoever notarized it did it illegally. That's a Class 1 misdemeanor at minimum. If money's involved, it jumps to felony fraud. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number with a photo attachment. I opened it to find a picture of a couple standing in my living room, the real estate agent beside them, all three smiling beside my fireplace. First showing complete, the text read, "Strong interest offer expected by evening Grant Mitchell, Coldwell banker." I showed Donna the photo. She grabbed her phone again. "Mark, it's Donna. I need you at a property on Canyon View Road. Possible felony fraud in progress." "No, not tomorrow. Now." Deputy Mark Hendricks was her nephew. She explained. Good kid. Thorough. Hated property fraud, with a passion after his grandmother almost lost her house to a similar scam. "He'll meet you at the house in an hour. Meanwhile, I'm filing these documents with a rush flag. By noon, every title company in Colorado will have an alert on your property." I left the courthouse with copies of everything, stamped and sealed. The notice of interest was particularly satisfying legal notification that any sale, transfer, or encumbrance of my property would be investigated for fraud. My phone rang as I reached my car. Caleb. "Mum, what did you do?" "Savannah just got a call that the listing's been flagged." "I protected my property." "Mum, please? Can we just talk? Savannah says there's been a misunderstanding." "There's been a forgery." "That's not a misunderstanding. That's a crime." "Christ, Mum, don't be dramatic. Nobody forged anything. You're just confused about what you signed." Something in me went very cold. Caleb Michael Whitaker. I have spent 30 years cataloguing historical documents. I can spot a forgery from across a room. I know what I signed and what I didn't. If you're suggesting I'm senile, nobody's suggesting that. Then what are you suggesting? Silence. Then, very quietly, "Savannah says if you don't stop this, she'll petition for conservatorship. Say you're not competent to manage your affairs." There it was, the real threat. "She's welcome to try," I said, my voice steady despite the rage building in my chest. "In fact, I hope she does. Discovery will be fascinating. Tell your wife I'll see her at the open house." "What open house?" I checked the MLS listing on my phone. There it was. Newly updated, open house, Saturday 11 to 2 p.m. Don't miss this rare opportunity. "Saturday," I said. The one she just scheduled. I wouldn't miss it for the world. I hung up and sat in my car for a moment, watching the courthouse flag snap in the morning wind. Savannah wanted to play dirty fine, but she'd forgotten one thing I'd spent 3 decades preserving: the truth. Now I was going to use it to bury her. Deputy Hendricks arrived at 11:15, tall and serious, with the kind of meticulous attention to detail that made him perfect for fraud investigation. He photographed the for sale sign from multiple angles, documented the tire tracks from this morning's showing, and took my statement with the precision of someone who understood that details won cases. "The notary seal is the key," he said, examining the screenshot from Savannah's live stream. "If we can prove it was illegally obtained, everything else unravels." Martha Brennan arrived while he was still there, carrying her litigation bag, the expensive leather one that meant she was preparing for war. "I've been making calls," she said, pulling out a legal pad covered in notes. "The agent, Grant Mitchell, is 23 years old, licensed for exactly 4 months. This is his first big listing. He never asked to verify ownership documents directly with you." "Negligence?" Deputy Hendricks nodded. "At minimum." "The buyer from this morning, the Pattersons, already submitted an offer. 800,000 cash. Quick close." Martha showed me her phone. "Savannah accepted it an hour ago." "How can she accept anything?" I asked. "She has no authority." "That's where it gets interesting." Martha pulled out a document. "I had a friend at title company pull the power of attorney filed with the listing. Look at the notary." The name was Robert Kellerman, with an address in Denver. The seal looked official. The signature, a decent forgery of mine, was dated April 15th. "The same day Caleb came for the roof papers," I said. "Right. But here's the thing, Robert Kellerman lost his notary license in January. He's currently under investigation for notarizing documents for deceased persons in 3 estate fraud cases." Deputy Hendricks whistled. "She hired a dirty notary." "Worse," Martha said. "She hired a known dirty notary. That shows intent." I made coffee while they strategized, my hands steady despite the adrenaline coursing through me. In the archives, we had a saying, "The document doesn't lie, but it doesn't tell the whole truth either." You had to look at what was missing, what was deliberately obscured. "What about Caleb?" I asked, returning with the coffee. "How do we keep him out of this?" Martha and Deputy Hendricks exchanged glances. "Honestly," Martha said, "we prove he was manipulated, show a pattern of Savannah acting without his knowledge." "I might have something," I said, remembering. "Check your phone around 2 p.m. on Tuesdays." I pulled up my text history with Caleb. Every Tuesday at 2 p.m, like clockwork. He was in meetings when Savannah did her live streams. Every property she'd ever promoted. Every scheme she'd pitched, always when Caleb couldn't object. "It's pattern behavior," Deputy Hendricks agreed. "She isolates him from her business dealings." My phone buzzed. Another unknown number. Another showing request. This time for Friday morning. "Let them come," Martha said. "In fact, encourage it. The more people she brings through before we drop the hammer, the more witnesses to her fraud." I spent the rest of Wednesday building my case. The Historical Trust had trained me well, every document copied in triplicate, every conversation noted with timestamps, every piece of evidence catalogued and cross-referenced. By evening, I had a timeline that would make a prosecutor weep with joy. Savannah's campaign started 13 months ago, escalating gradually from suggestions to pressure to outright fraud. The PowerPoint presentation she'd shown me in February, I'd found it on her Google Drive. She'd accidentally shared it with Caleb, who still had me on his family account. The metadata showed she'd created it 6 months before she ever mentioned downsizing to me. Thursday morning brought Dana Klein, the real estate attorney Martha had recommended. Where Martha was fire and brimstone, Dana was surgical precision. She reviewed my evidence with the kind of satisfied expression usually reserved for chefs examining perfect ingredients. "We have 3 options," she said. adjusting her rimless glasses. 1, file criminal charges immediately. 2, let the open house proceed and document everything. 3, my personal favorite, set a trap. A trap. You mentioned Savannah scheduled the open house for Saturday. Public event. Multiple witnesses. Probably live-streamed again for her followers. Dana smiled. What if we give her exactly what she wants, an audience for her grand performance, but flip the script? She outlined the plan. It was elegant, thorough, and absolutely devastating. We'll need the living trust documents, she said. Can you set that up by tomorrow? Already done. I'd called Jack's old attorney that morning. The Whitaker Living Trust was established by 3Ps, with me as both trustee and lifetime beneficiary. The house was transferred into it by 4P.C. All properly recorded with Donna at the county office. Perfect. Now, about this life estate agreement with Rocky Mesa Historical Trust. This was my masterstroke. The Historical Trust had been looking for a property to showcase authentic Colorado architectural preservation. My house, with its original timberwork and historical significance, was perfect. The agreement I'd signed that morning gave them a conservation easement. The house could never be demolished, subdivided, or substantially altered. It could be sold, technically, but only under such restrictive conditions that no developer would touch it. The value for development just dropped to 0, Dana said approvingly. But there's more, isn't there? I nodded. The trust wants to document the attempted fraud. They're sending their photographer Saturday for educational purposes. You beautiful, devious woman. Martha laughed. She'll be performing her con for a documentary crew. Friday arrived with 2 more showings. I watched from Betty's house as couples toured my home. Savannah's voice carrying across the yard as she painted pictures of demolition and development potential. Grant Mitchell, the young agent, looked increasingly uncomfortable as potential buyers asked questions he couldn't answer about property verification. That evening, I did something I hadn't done in 5 years. I went to Jack's grave. I'm about to destroy our son's marriage, I told the headstone. Maybe his life. I could stop this, take the high road, let them have the house. The wind through the pines sounded like Jack's laugh. Yeah, I said. You're right. They came for our house. Our house. The one where we raised our boy, where you died in my arms, where 40 years of life happened. They want to bulldoze it for profit. A raven landed on Jack's headstone, cocked its head at me, and cawed once. Message received, I said. Tomorrow, we end this. I drove home past Savannah's real estate office. The lights were on despite the late hour. Through the window, I could see her at her desk, probably preparing for tomorrow's open house, planning her triumph. She had no idea what was coming. Saturday morning broke clear and cold, the kind of Colorado day that sells houses and dreams in equal measure. I was up at 5:30 a.m. preparing my battlefield with the methodical care of someone who'd spent 3 decades handling irreplaceable documents. The doorbell camera I'd installed Thursday night was already recording. Every person who stepped onto my property today would be documented, time-stamped, and saved to the cloud. Betty had volunteered her Ring camera footage as backup, and Tom Morrison from across the street, a retired FBI agent, had positioned himself on his porch with his morning coffee and a direct sightline to my front door. At 8:45, I watched from my bedroom window as Savannah arrived to prepare. She wore her power outfit cream blazer, designer jeans, the diamond earrings I knew Caleb couldn't afford. Grant Mitchell followed in his Honda Civic, arms full of glossy brochures featuring my home. They didn't have keys. I'd changed the locks Wednesday night, but Savannah had kept the spare from her last visit. I watched her use it, captured perfectly on my cameras, breaking and entering, technically, since her authority to access the property was based on fraudulent documents. The open house wasn't scheduled to start until 11 a.m., but eager buyers began arriving at 10:15. I recognized the Pattersons, the cash buyers who'd already made an offer. They walked through my garden, the husband pointing at the greenhouse Jack had built, probably calculating demolition costs. Martha arrived at 10:30, parking her Mercedes strategically in Betty's driveway. Dana Klein pulled up 5 minutes later, followed by her assistant carrying banker's boxes of documents. Deputy Hendricks was already there in an unmarked car, positioned to see both the front door and the street. The photographer from Rocky Mesa Historical Trust showed up at 10:45, a young man named Marcus with professional equipment and a gift for being invisible. I'd told him to document everything but stay unobtrusive. "Pretend you're shooting the architecture," I'd said. He'd grinned. "Ma'am, I've shot 3 divorce proceedings and a DEA raid. I got this." At 10:55, I made my entrance. I walked from Betty's house, cutting through the garden path Jack and I had laid 20 years ago. I wore my archive professional best charcoal slacks, silk blouse, the pearls Jack gave me for our 30th anniversary. In my hands, I carried a single manila folder. Savannah was on the front porch, mid-pitch to a young couple when she saw me. Her face cycled through surprise, anger, and then settled on that practiced real estate smile. "Nora, how wonderful that you're here to say goodbye to the house." She turned to the couple. "This is the current owner, making her transition to senior living." "I'm not transitioning anywhere," I said pleasantly. "And you need to stop this showing immediately." Grant Mitchell materialized beside Savannah, his young face flushed. "Ma'am, I have authorization?" "You have fraud," I said, opening my folder. "Mr. Mitchell, are you aware that the power of attorney you're relying on was notarized by someone who lost their license in January?" His face went white. Savannah's hand moved to his arm, nails digging in warning. "That's absurd," she said, but her voice had climbed an octave. "Everything is completely legal." "Is it?" Martha stepped onto the porch, Dana beside her. "Because we have an affidavit from Jennifer Cho stating you tried to have documents notarized after the fact. We have records showing Robert Kellerman, your notary, is under investigation for fraud. And we have this." She held up her phone, showing Savannah's metadata from the PowerPoint. "You planned this 13 months ago. That shows premeditation." More buyers were arriving, clustering on the lawn, sensing drama. Savannah's live stream followers would be getting quite a show, though not the one she'd planned. "You can't prove anything," Savannah said, but she was backing toward the door. "Actually, I can." I pulled out the next document. "This is the deed transfer recorded yesterday. The house is now held by the Whitaker Living Trust, with me as lifetime trustee. Even if your power of attorney was valid, which it isn't, it wouldn't cover trust property." "You can't do that retroactively," Savannah snapped, forgetting her audience. "I can do whatever I want with my own property," I said. "Which brings me to this." I pulled out the conservation easement. The Rocky Mesa Historical Trust now holds a permanent easement on this property. It cannot be demolished, subdivided, or substantially altered. Ever. Grant Mitchell was backing away, phone pressed to his ear, probably calling his broker. The gathered crowd was recording everything on their phones. Marcus moved through them like smoke, camera clicking steadily. "You bitter old bitch," Savannah hissed, abandoning all pretense. "You'd rather let this place rot than see your own family benefit." "My family, I let my voice carry. You mean my son, who you manipulated into betraying his mother, or yourself, who forged my signature and tried to steal my home." "I never forged anything. Caleb said you signed." She stopped, realizing what she'd just admitted, that Caleb had told her I'd signed something, not that she'd witnessed it herself. Deputy Hendricks stepped forward. "Ma'am, I'm going to need you to come with me. We have questions about the notarization of fraudulent documents. This is harassment." Savannah pulled out her phone, started recording. "This old woman is confused and paranoid. She probably has dementia." "Interesting," Dana said calmly. "So you're claiming incompetence as a defense? Because if Mrs. Whitaker has dementia, then she couldn't have legally signed a power of attorney anyway. You've just admitted to either fraud or elder abuse. Which would you prefer?" The crowd was getting larger. I recognized several neighbors, some curiosity seekers, and at least one reporter from the Cedar Ridge Gazette. Savannah's grand open house was becoming her public humiliation. "Where's Caleb?" I asked suddenly. "Your husband. Where is he?" "He's working." "On Saturday, during your big open house," I pulled out my phone, scrolled to Tuesday at 2 p.m. Like he's always working when you do these schemes. Like he was conveniently absent when you forged my signature. "I want a lawyer," Savannah said. "Excellent choice," Martha said cheerfully. "You'll need one. The Colorado Attorney General's office is very interested in this case. Something about a pattern of elder fraud in the real estate industry." Grant Mitchell had disappeared entirely, his Honda Civic gone from the street. The Pattersons were on their phone with someone, probably their lawyer. The young couple Savannah had been pitching to were backing away like she had something contagious. "Everyone needs to leave," I announced to the crowd. "This is my property, and this showing is cancelled. If you've made an offer, please be aware it's based on fraudulent representation. Contact the Colorado Real Estate Commission for information about filing a complaint." They scattered, but slowly, phones still recording. This would be all over social media within an hour. Savannah's reputation, her $1 million producer status, her carefully constructed image all destroyed in under 15 minutes. "You've ruined everything," she said, tears finally starting. But they weren't tears of remorse, they were tears of rage at being caught. The crowd was thick now, at least 30 people with phones raised, and Savannah's composure was cracking like old paint under heat. She stood on my porch designer heels clicking nervously against the wooden boards Jack had restored by hand. "This is ridiculous," she said, trying to reclaim control. "I have documentation, legal documentation." "Then let's review it," I said. Pulling out the document, Dana had prepared a cease and desist letter, formatted perfectly, every legal citation precisely placed. "This orders you to stop all sales activities immediately. It's already been filed with the MLS, the Colorado Association of Realtors, and your broker." Martha's assistant appeared with a tablet showing the MLS listing. A red banner now flashed across the top. "Listing suspended. Under investigation for fraudulent representation." Savannah's phone was buzzing continuously. She glanced at it, and I saw her face pale further. Her broker, probably, maybe clients, definitely the death of her career happening in real time. You want to destroy me, she said, voice rising. Fine, but I'll take Caleb with me. He knew everything. Did he? I pulled out my trump card, a series of text messages between Savannah and someone named Derek, printed and highlighted. Betty's grandson had helped me retrieve them from a cached Instagram conversation Savannah thought she'd deleted. Keep C busy Tuesday. I read aloud. Can't have him getting cold feet about Mum's signature. That's from you. April 14th. The day before Caleb came for the roof papers. The crowd pressed closer. Marcus had switched to video, the red recording light steady on his camera. Made contact with Kellerman. I continued reading. He'll do it for 500 cash. C doesn't need to know. April 16th. The day after you got the forged document. Those are private messages. Savannah lunged for the papers, but Deputy Hendricks stepped between us. Actually, Dana said smoothly, they became evidence the moment you used them to coordinate fraud. Discovery's going to be fascinating. A Lincoln Navigator pulled up fast, tires squealing. Caleb jumped out, still in his work clothes, the Patagonia vest and khakis of his software job. The uniform of a man who'd never thought he'd be racing to save his marriage at his mother's house. What the hell is happening? He looked at the crowd, the cameras, his wife's tear-streaked face, the deputy. Mum, your wife is stealing my house, I said simply. Or trying to. Savannah. He turned to her, and I saw something I hadn't expected, genuine confusion. You said Mom agreed. You said she signed. She did sign. Savannah grabbed his arm. Baby, your mother is having some kind of episode. She's paranoid, confused. I'm clear as crystal, I interrupted. Clear enough to know you used a disbarred notary. Clear enough to document every lie you've told. Clear enough to protect what's mine. I pulled out the final document from my folder, the one Dana had called the nuclear option. This is the conservation easement with Rocky Mesa Historical Trust, I announced to the crowd, holding it high. Executed yesterday at 4:15 p.m., permanently restricting any development of this property. The house can never be torn down, never be subdivided, never be turned into whatever monstrosity Savannah was promising investors. An older man in the crowd, one of the potential buyers from earlier, cursed loudly. You told us it was perfect for condos, he shouted at Savannah. Prime development opportunity? You said. I need everyone to hear this clearly, I said, raising my voice. Any offers made on this property were obtained through fraud. The seller never consented to any sale. Anyone who proceeded with a purchase would be receiving a property they cannot develop, cannot alter, and would likely lose in the lawsuits that will follow. Martha stepped forward with a stack of papers. These are notices for anyone who made an offer. You'll want to contact your attorneys immediately about recovering any earnest money or deposits. The Pattersons pushed through the crowd, the wife's face furious. 800,000 cash offer, she spat at Savannah. We liquidated stocks for this. You said it was a done deal. It is. Savannah was desperate now. The power of attorney is legal. I have the right. You have nothing, Deputy Hendricks said. He pulled out a pair of handcuffs. Savannah Whitaker, you're under arrest for forgery, fraud, and attempted grand theft. You have the right to remain silent. Caleb. Savannah screamed, trying to reach him as Hendricks cuffed her. Tell them. Tell them you knew. My son stood frozen, face grey, looking between his wife and me. In that moment, I saw him at 7, crying over a broken toy, at 17, proud in his graduation gown, at 27, dancing with Savannah at their wedding where I'd given a toast about trust and family. I didn't know, he said quietly. Mum, I swear I didn't know. I know, baby, I said, and meant it. The text messages proved it. The pattern of Tuesday meetings proved it. His shock proved it. But I should have, he continued, his voice stronger. I should have known when she kept pushing about the house. Should have known when she had me get your signature. Should have known who I married. Savannah was being led to the deputy's car, still screaming about lawyers and setups and how this wasn't over. The crowd followed, phones tracking every step, and I knew this would be viral within hours. Cedar Ridge's scandal of the year. The open house is over, I announced. This is private property. Please leave immediately. They dispersed slowly, reluctantly, but Marcus lingered, switching lenses on his camera. Did you get everything? I asked him. Every frame. He grinned. The trust is going to love this. We're thinking of calling the exhibit When Houses Fight Back. Only family remained now. Caleb, Martha, Dana, and Betty, who'd watched the whole thing from her porch like a general observing a battlefield. What happens now? Caleb asked. He looked lost, older somehow, like he'd aged 5 years in 10 minutes. Now, your wife gets a lawyer, Martha said. The district attorney decides what to charge. The real estate commission pulls her license, and your mother keeps her house. What about us? He asked me. You and me. I looked at my son, this man I'd raised who'd let weakness override wisdom, who'd chosen comfort over courage, but also the boy who still brought me coffee on Sundays, who'd loved his father, who'd been played by someone better at manipulation than he was at resistance. That depends, I said carefully, on whether you're ready to see who you married and who you want to be without her. The deputy's car hadn't even turned the corner when Caleb's phone exploded with calls. Savannah's mother, her sister, her real estate team, everyone wanting to know what happened, why she'd been arrested. How dare I do this to family? Don't answer, Martha advised him. Anything you say can be used. But he was already walking to his car, shoulders bent like he was carrying stones. I need to think, he said. I need to think. After he left, we moved inside, my violated house, which still smelled faintly of Savannah's perfume from her morning preparations. I started coffee, while Dana spread documents across my dining room table, the same table where Savannah had pitched her PowerPoint about estate planning. We need to discuss the criminal charges, Dana said. The DA will want your input on prosecution. Will Caleb be implicated? That was all that mattered. The text messages clear him, Deputy Hendricks said, having returned after booking Savannah. She deliberately kept him out of the loop, the Tuesday pattern, the messages about keeping him busy. It all shows consciousness of guilt on her part and innocence on his. There's more, Martha added, pulling up something on her tablet. Savannah's been doing this before. Not to this extent, but there's a pattern. She showed me 3 complaints filed with the Real Estate Commission over 2 years, all involving elderly sellers, all claiming misrepresentation, all quietly settled. She picked the wrong target this time, Betty said from the doorway. She'd let herself in with the spare key I'd given her 20 years ago. Nora's got more fight in her than a mountain cat. The prosecutor will love this, Dana said. Pattern of behavior, escalating conduct, clear documentation. But Nora, there's something else we need to discuss. She pulled out a new document. The conservation easement, it's brilliant for stopping development. But you realize it also affects the value if you ever do want to sell. I'll never sell, I said firmly. This house goes to Caleb when I die. Restrictions and all. Let him decide then if he wants to keep his father's legacy or let it go to the historical trust. About that, Martha said carefully. Savannah will likely argue marital assets in their divorce. Their divorce. You think he'll stay with her after this? I didn't answer. Couldn't. Because part of me, the mother part, still remembered how happy he'd been at his wedding. How Savannah had seemed like salvation for my quiet, anxious boy who'd never quite recovered from losing his father. Tom Morrison knocked on the door, the retired FBI agent from across the street. Nora, you need to see this. He had his phone out, showing a Facebook Live video. Savannah, from the back of the police car, streaming to her followers. The angle was awkward, her hands cuffed, but her voice was clear. This is elder abuse, she was saying. My mother-in-law is clearly suffering from dementia. She's paranoid, delusional. She attacked me at my own open house, made false accusations. I'm the victim here. The comments were flying past, some supporting her, others doubting, most just there for the drama. Can we stop this? I asked. Let her talk. Dana smiled coldly. She's building our case, claiming you have dementia after trying to sell your house. That's admission of elder abuse. But I wasn't comfortable being entertainment. This wasn't about viral videos or public humiliation. This was about protecting what Jack and I had built. I want to make a statement, I said. Something official. Set the record straight. Marcus, who'd been quietly reviewing his photos in the corner, looked up. I can film it. Professional quality. The trust would support it. Education about elder fraud and all. We spent an hour crafting it. Not an attack. Not a defense. Just truth. Plain. Simple. Documented truth. I sat in my living room, in Jack's old leather chair, the canyon view behind me. Marcus adjusted the lighting until it was soft but clear. I wore the same outfit from the morning professional, composed, believable. My name is Eleanor Whitaker, I began, looking directly into the camera. I'm 62 years old, of sound mind and body, and someone tried to steal my home. I laid it out chronologically, calmly, the pressure to downsize, the forged signature, the illegal notary, the conservation easement I'd filed to protect not just my property, but my rights. Elder fraud in real estate is rising, I continued. Families, caregivers, even strangers target older homeowners, assuming we're weak, confused, or easily manipulated. But we're not. We're the generation that built these communities, these homes, these lives, and we have the right to keep them. I held up the conservation easement. This document ensures my house will never be demolished for profit. It will stand as long as the trust maintains it, a testament to what one family built and one woman protected. To anyone facing similar pressure, I concluded, document everything, trust but verify, and never, ever sign anything you haven't read completely, no matter who's asking. Marcus stopped recording. That was perfect. Mrs. Whitaker. Now what? Betty asked. Now we wait, Martha said. The criminal case will take months. The civil suits, and there will be several, could take years. But the immediate threat is over. My phone rang. Caleb. Mum. His voice was rough, like he'd been crying. I'm at the jail. They won't let me see her. That's probably for the best. I'm not there to help her, he interrupted. I'm there to file for divorce. My lawyer says I need to establish separation immediately to protect myself from any civil liability. My heart broke a little. Not for the marriage ending that was inevitable now, but for my son having to make this choice in a jail parking lot. Come home, I said. Your room's still here? I can't be in that house right now. I'm going to a hotel. Caleb. I knew. Mom. His voice cracked. Not about the forgery, not about the illegal stuff, but I knew she wanted your house. I knew, and I chose to believe her when she said you'd agreed, because it was easier than fighting her. The admission hung between us like a bridge on fire, dangerous to cross, impossible to ignore. We all make choices, I said finally. The question is what you choose next. He hung up without answering. The afternoon sun was fading over the canyon, painting the rocks the same gold they'd been the day Jack proposed to me here, the day we brought baby Caleb home, the day we scattered Jack's ashes. She made bail, Deputy Hendricks called an hour later. 500,000 bond. Her mother put up her house as collateral. So Savannah was free. For now. Free to spin her story. Free to plot her defense. Free to destroy what was left of my family. But not free to touch my house. Never again free to touch what was mine. The sun was setting behind the canyon walls when everyone finally left. Martha, Dana, Deputy Hendricks, even faithful Betty all gone, leaving me alone in my house for the first time since this nightmare began. The silence should have been peaceful, but it thrummed with the echo of Savannah's screams, Caleb's broken voice, the click of handcuffs. I walked through each room, reclaiming them. The kitchen where Savannah had filmed her lies. The living room she'd promised to demolish. The master bedroom she'd advertised as perfect for modernization. Each space felt like a battlefield after the war, standing but scarred. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. But I recognized the message style immediately. You think you won, but you destroyed your own family. Hope the house was worth your son. Savannah. Probably from a burner phone. Probably against her lawyer's advice. I didn't respond. Instead, I pulled out the for sale sign from where I'd stored it in the garage. The young agent's face still smiled from the placard, though I'd heard he'd already quit real estate, gone back to insurance sales. The sign was heavy, awkward, but I dragged it to the backyard, to the fire pit Jack had built from canyon stones. The lighter fluid was where he'd always kept it, the matches in their weatherproof box. The sign was mostly plastic and composite, but it burned. Oh, how it burned. Orange flames eating away at motivated seller, black smoke carrying estate sale potential into the evening sky. That's illegal, you know, a voice said behind me. Burning plastics. Environmental violation. Caleb stood at the garden gate, looking haggard, older, but present. Arrest me, I said, not turning around. He came to stand beside me, watching the sign curl and melt. Her lawyer called. Wants me to testify that you've been showing signs of confusion lately. Says if I cooperate, she'll only get probation. Will you? I already told him to go to hell. He pulled something from his pocket, his wedding ring, without ceremony. He tossed it into the fire. Dad would have never let her in the house. Your father would have seen through her in 10 seconds. I agreed. But you're not your father. No. he said quietly. I'm not. I'm the son who almost let his mother lose everything because he couldn't stand up to his wife. We watched the fire consume the last of the sign, the plastic pooling into an ugly mass at the bottom of the pit. The conservation easement, he said suddenly. That was brilliant. She can never touch it now, no matter what happens with the criminal case. It also means you can never develop it, I reminded him. When I'm gone, you'll inherit a house you can't change, can't subdivide, can't profit from. Just live in or let go to the trust. Good, he said firmly. Some things shouldn't be for profit. A car pulled up front, doors slamming. We both tensed, but it was just Marcus, the photographer, with a laptop. Mrs. Whitaker. The video's already at 2 million views. The trust wants to use it for their educational campaign. And he paused, looking between Caleb and me. 3 other families have already come forward. Same pattern. Elderly parents, pressure to sell, forged documents. Savannah? Caleb asked, his voice hollow. No, different realtors. But inspired by her methods, apparently, she was teaching a workshop. Unlocking family assets, she called it. My son made a sound like he'd been punched. I put my hand on his arm, first contact since this began. We stop it, I said. All of it. Every instance we can find. Marcus left after getting some final shots of the house at sunset. Caleb and I moved to the kitchen, where I made coffee, and he sat in his old spot, the chair with the wonky leg that Jack had always meant to fix. I'll testify, he said, for the prosecution. Everything I know about her schemes, her plans, her connections. That's dangerous for you, legally, financially. I don't care anymore. He looked up at me, and for the first time in years, I saw clarity in his eyes. I spent 5 years living her life, chasing her dreams, becoming someone I don't recognize. I'm 34 years old, and I don't own anything real. No integrity, no backbone, no father's respect, if he could see me now. Your father loved you. But would he like me? The man I became? I couldn't answer that honestly. So I didn't answer at all. At 9:45 p.m., as I was drawing the curtains, a news van pulled up, then another. By 10 p.m., there were 3. They're reporters standing in my street with my house as backdrop, telling the story of the woman who fought back. Should I go tell them to leave? Caleb asked. Let them broadcast, I said. Let every vulture watching know that some prey bites back. He stayed that night, in his childhood room with its astronomy posters and debate trophies. I heard him on the phone at midnight, maybe with a lawyer, maybe with friends, maybe just checking his voicemail to hear how many people had already chosen sides. Sunday morning came quiet and clear. I made breakfast eggs, bacon, toast. The same Sunday breakfast I'd made for 40 years. Caleb came down showered and shaved, looking more like himself than he had in years. I'm moving back to Denver, he said. Starting over. My company has an office there, and they'll let me transfer. Running away. Running toward, he corrected. Toward whoever I was before I met her. We ate in silence, but it wasn't uncomfortable. It was the silence of people who'd survived something together, even if on opposite sides of the battle. Betty knocked at 11 a.m., holding a casserole and a savage grin. Savannah's mother just called me, wanted to know if I'd be a character witness. I told her I'd be happy to for the prosecution. The doorbell camera caught everything after that. Reporters wanting statements, Realtors wanting to know if I'd really frozen the property forever. Savannah's flying monkeys, as Betty called them, leaving nasty notes and nastier voicemails, but also others. Elderly couples who'd been pressured to sell. Adult children suspicious of their parents' sudden real estate transactions. A whole community of people who'd been too ashamed or confused to speak up, now finding their voice. By sunset, I stood in my living room, my protected, preserved, untouchable living room, and looked out at the canyon. The same view Jack had loved. The same rocks that had watched our life unfold. The same sky that would outlast all of us. The for sale sign was gone, burned to nothing. The listing was dead, permanently banned from MLS. The conservation easement was filed, ironclad and eternal. And Savannah? She'd made bail, hired lawyers, started her social media defense. But she'd never set foot on my property again. Never touch what Jack and I had built. Never steal what wasn't hers to take. I pulled the curtains closed on the circus outside. Tomorrow there would be lawyers, testimonies, probably more revelations about Savannah's schemes. The war wasn't over just this battle. But tonight, in my house, on my land, with my son finding his way back to himself and my husband's memory finally at peace, I had won what mattered. The house stood solid around me, every beam and board a testament to permanence in a world that wanted everything fast, liquid, disposable. Some things were worth fighting dirty for. Some things were worth drawing blood to protect. I turned off the porch light and locked the door, the click of the deadbolt as final as a judge's gavel. Let them all come. Let them all try. This house, this life, this widow's fury, none of it was for sale. Thank you so much for listening to this story. I'm curious, where are you tuning in from as you hear this tale of Eleanor's revenge? Drop a comment below and let's connect. If this story resonated with you, please subscribe to the channel and share your thoughts. Have you or someone you know faced similar pressure from family about property? I'd love to hear your experiences in the comments below.